Two National Guard soldiers were shot by a lone gunman near the White House, sending shockwaves through the nation's capital. While both soldiers were rushed to the hospital and are said to be in critical condition. Authorities have confirmed that the suspect is now in custody after being wounded during the confrontation. Meanwhile, eyewitness video captured the dramatic aftermath of a shooting which unfolded near Farragut Square, a busy lunch spot for office workers just blocks away from the White House. Officials confirmed that two members of the National Guard were shot in what is being described as a targeted attack. The incident prompted an immediate lockdown of the White House at the time of the attack. President Trump was at his Palm Beach resort in Florida ahead of the Thanksgiving holiday. Vice President J.D. Vance was in Kentucky. Now, according to reports, the Justice Department official told investigators have identified the suspect as Rehmanullah Lakhanwal, a 29-year-old Afghan national from Washington state. The official added that the attack is being investigated as an act of terrorism. Now, in a post on social media, President Trump condemned the suspected shooter, calling him an animal who would pay a very steep price. He also praised the service and sacrifice of the National Guard.
At approximately 2:15 this afternoon, members of the D.C. National Guard were on high visibility patrols in the area of 17th and I Street Northwest when a suspect came around the corner, raised his arm with a firearm and discharged it at the National Guard members. Within moments, members of law enforcement in the area were also able to assist and bring that individual into custody. The National Guard members are being treated at a local hospital. D.C. Fire and EMS responded to the scene to provide first aid for those individuals and transport them to a local hospital. The suspect in this case was also transported for treatment at a local hospital.
What we know, Andrea, is that this is a targeted shooting. One individual who appeared to target these guardsmen, that individual has been taken into custody.
An eyewitness said that the atmosphere immediately after the shooting was tense and unsettling. He noted that the incident could lead to a stronger military and police presence across the city.
Not really, didn't see blood. I think it was a little bit too far for that being across the street. However, we did hear them working on somebody and they were doing chest compressions on one of the National Guard men. And then there was another one that was on the ground that looked like he was a little bit closer to the suspect.
Another video captured showed a helicopter, police and emergency vehicles converging on the scene following the shooting incident. Well, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth announced that President Donald Trump has directed the deployment of 500 additional National Guard troops to Washington, D.C.
In fact, this happened just steps away from the White House. It will not stand. And that's why President Trump has asked me, and I will ask the Secretary of the Army to the National Guard, to add 500 additional troops, National Guardsmen, to Washington, D.C. This will only stiffen our resolve to ensure that we make Washington, D.C. safe and beautiful.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
Two members of the National Guard were shot just blocks away from the White House on Thanksgiving Eve in what officials are calling a targeted ambush. The guardsmen were on a high visibility patrol when a lone gunman approached them and opened fire. The suspect has been taken into custody. The motives are unclear. The attack triggered a brief lockdown at the White House complex and temporarily halted flights into Reagan National Airport as police secured the area. President Trump, who's in Florida, condemned the shooting, calling the suspect a quote-unquote animal, and ordered additional National Guard deployment to Washington. Authorities say there is currently no threat, but the investigation remains active and, of course, has only just begun. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION World is One.